Welcome back to the Root Cause Podcast, where today's guest is a pharmacist who's going to help us connect the dots between agriculture and the pharmaceutical industry. All right, so today with me, I have returning guest, Caleb Dinwiddie, and also a new face, Dr. Jason Kizer. So welcome to the show. I want to thank you for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right. Grew up in Union City. My father was a Chevrolet dealer when I was a kid, and just a normal kid in Union City, decided to get interested in pharmacy as a career. My parents moved from Union City. I actually played baseball at Lambeth for a couple of years, and then I went to Sanford in Birmingham for pharmacy school. Went to Nashville from there, started working for a chain. I was trying to do a little songwriting career on the side. I was a better pharmacist.
What kind of songs?
Well, it was in the 90s, so it was country music mainly. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You don't like country music?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't. It's not that I don't like it. It's the theme of it.
He's a farmer.
Yeah.
Who farms row crops and just doesn't like country music. That makes sense.
No, I get it. It can get pretty redundant on some topics. So I did that for a little bit, and then I kind of climbed the corporate chain ladder and learned how not to run a pharmacy, honestly. And then went to work for some really innovative people in Murfreesboro, Shane Reeves and Rick Sane. Shane's a state senator now. Anyway, they taught me a lot, and then I decided, I was kind of told in pharmacy school you couldn't own your own pharmacy anymore, that the chains had killed it and insurance was killing it, and so I didn't even have aspiration. I wanted to own my own business, but I didn't think I could until I went to Murfreesboro, and I thought, you know what, I can do this. So I went back, I knew I wanted to do it in a small town. I thought that in the big towns, convenience overrides service. People just want to get home. It's an hour commute. They don't care where they get their prescription. And in a small town, I thought service overrides convenience.
Relationships.
Because everywhere's convenient.
Yeah.
So that's where I picked that up. And just what was unique was I think I was 28 or 29. I had two little kids, and we opened from scratch, which was that was a little nuts. We filled 19 prescriptions the first day. I think I was kidding to every patient. But we were blessed and just had a good, successful career. And then, like most industries, we've had lots of gloom and doom show up along the way. So we've had to constantly innovate. But all in all, it's treated almost like a ministry, because you're just loving people and treating them like you would your family. And I can remember a pharmacist when I was a kid got out in the middle of the night when my dad had cancer and got out of surgery, and it just made a big impact on me, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's what I did.
So you said you worked for a corporate chain. How do you think your time spent there, it shaped your vision for your own community-based practice?
Yeah, I learned a lot about management and skills like budgeting and things like that, but and they had resources that most independent pharmacy owners don't have access to. So I learned a lot about that, but I guess
the back shop.
Yeah, that's right.
What you're up against.
Yeah, that's right. And then I realized that this can be done a whole lot better. I didn't really feel like the corporate world really cared about profit as much. I mean, you would think they would, but when I got up in the corporate offices, it was more about people protecting their turf and their jobs. And I remember I had a really good idea that ended up saving millions of dollars for the company. And when I first presented it, my boss at the time said, "Don't tell anybody that." And I was like, "Why?" He said, "Because they're going to ask why I didn't think of it." Or something. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So that kind of stuff just frustrated me over time. And so I thought, when I get out, I'm going to have enough help. I'm going to do things in the opposite direction, and I'm going to see if it works.
So before we ever have a guest on, I make sure to stalk their socials and just try to get up to date on them. So when I was stalking you, I seen that you just went to Denver, Colorado for the Cardinal Health Retail Business Conference. Right. So what did you do there? Tell us kind of what you talked about and spoke on.
I think I've been a Cardinal customer for a long time. That's who we buy our drugs from. They're a Fortune 10 company. But they just had me on. I'd been on before, but they had me on stage to talk about my innovations and things I do to combat a really negative business climate in the pharmacy world, the middleman, the insurance companies, it's kind of hard to explain, but pharmacy benefits managers have just absolutely crushed local pharmacy. And it's just a monopoly type thing that, and they own their own pharmacies and they steer things to themselves and they convince employers to utilize plans that benefit the benefit manager the most. And I actually, in 2011, started my own PBM to combat that. It was called AmeriClear. We owned it for about 10 years roughly and made some success. We had employers in West Tennessee using it and they were saving lots of money. We had a hospital system in Knoxville area save millions of dollars, and they fired the largest PBM in the world and hired the smallest, and we saved them millions of dollars. And all it was because they said, well, how did you do it? I said, well, because we did everything right and didn't do things that were in our favor. And what typically happens, I'm going down the weeds here, but you will see a prescription cost a certain amount and you think it's $10 or whatever. Well, by the time the end payer, like the employer or the plan sponsor, gets the bill, it's far greater than that. It sometimes can be marked up over $100 just for a speed of light transaction. And when an employer gets a spreadsheet full of claims, they don't know those things. They just know their costs are up and they don't know why. And then you have the whole rebate game where if we get you on this drug, we get to keep so much. Yeah, like Ozempic cost $1,000. The PBM gets like $600 in a kickback. The drug company makes about $200. The wholesaler makes about $30, and we lose about $80. So it's just a broken system.
Make that make sense.
So this really broken system is the problem. But I have done things in my business that has gotten attention, I guess. In essence, I got sick of worrying about the negatives all the time and started changing our business to focus on things we want to do. And then we realized, what do you want to do? Well, we want to help people. And so it just so happened to coincide with my going down a wormhole of health and wellness about 7 years ago. And so we started focusing on wellness, some preventative medicine. Some people only want to wait till they get sick and their insurance covers it, so they're on the path and they don't care to make an investment on the front end. But we're finding more and more, and I think this is since COVID especially, people are taking the matters into their own hands, getting their own information. They're learning more. They're starting to realize, hey, I think I was taught the wrong way to do this, and I want to learn more. So we have lots of people coming in now because they hear something on the internet or they read something, they want to come to us to confirm it. Hey, you're a pharmacist, tell me, is that true? And so we noticed all that demand, so we started doing the research ourselves, and then I personally have tried it. I'm a guinea pig myself on all this stuff. And so it's really made a big impact on that. So that was part of it, but it was also trying to get super efficient. We changed our store hours. We've brought in some processes that make us really efficient, MedSyncing and things like that, we're a busy pharmacy. We never have longer than a 10 or 15-minute wait. We hardly ever have a negative experience. It's kind of like Chick-fil-A that sells drugs a little bit, And
I love that.
And so we try to, but what I'm willing to do, the chains aren't willing to do. I'm willing to invest in more personnel, higher quality people, and be more agile as a small business owner.
I think that's really important, though. It's small business versus your corporate chains or anything like that.
Right.
You're going to think more about the process and the experience, whereas they're just worried about getting people in and out as fast as possible.
Yeah, and their MO is if the operating statement's not working out, they just cut staff. And so sometimes people will say, that pharmacist, that chain's so rude. I'm like, no, he's just overworked and has no help. And they're killing him back there. And they have 5-hour waits and mistakes and things like that.
And they can't go upstream and look at the root cause of the problem.
That's right.
And make adjustments.
That's right. Because they're worried about this quarter statement and they can't buy a stapler this quarter, and so they've got to meet the numbers, so to speak.
Yeah. And so they're really not doing their customers what they should, as far as trying to take care of them.
Right. I think they're pinching so many pennies that they can't pick up the $100 bill.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement in agriculture too. It's we're so focused on volume metrics versus quality metrics. And so, that's, I guess we can just address that. We should be more nutritional based in our agriculture, our food supply, than we are yield based.
Right.
Yeah. That's where the solution's at in our medical problems, isn't it?
Well, all of this reading and wormhole stuff I've done, I've probably read 100 books and podcasts and research articles and been to seminars. One of the things I always think about is the food, is also agriculture. And I have neighbors that are farmers, and I don't know enough. Most of my farm knowledge comes through osmosis and or people walking in the pharmacy saying that, yeah, it's time to plant or whatever. But I'm constantly going, the problems I'm addressing a lot of times are rooted in our deficiencies in our soil or in our food, or the shortcuts that are being taken to make long-lasting, shelf-stable food.
Yeah.
And so I don't know enough about that. I just know it's a problem.
Yeah. So last week I visited a cabbage farm in northern New York. And the one thing I decided is the next time I develop a business plan, I'm going to have a product that has spoil that don't last long. So our problem is we got grain bins. We can keep grain for too long. I mean, I want something with no shelf life, so that we can, keep the stock fresh. But
That's
so
a good point.
do you feel like in medicine, that's what you're saying? Y'all are going after the masses, not the core problems.
Correct. And I think forever, we as healthcare have, like I've read in a book, we're good at acute care. Now, we've got it down. You got a heart attack, you walk in the ER, we know what to do. We're terrible at chronic care. We're terrible at managing and preventing chronic disease. And so I think about my education, and, we had some pretty significant chemistry and microbiology classes, doctorate level stuff. And we learned about the mitochondria and all the nutrients required to generate ATPs to prevent tissue damage and aging and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden we get to this point in our education after we learn all that, then we say, here are all the drugs that can manipulate those symptoms, hoping that the desired effect outweighs the side effects.
Right.
And so, but it was all about learning what drugs are on the market or in development that can manipulate the human body to generate the desired outcome. Now, forever, pharmacy was a really good bang for your buck thing. It was 7% of the total healthcare costs, but it generated 90% of the positive outcomes. Cheap penicillin killed the infection. A cheap blood pressure medicine resolved the blood pressure problem. Not a surgery or a massive procedure or some kind of device. So it was a pretty good thing, but we forgot the nutrition part. We learned zero nutrition. I spoke to a bunch of doctors not long ago, and show of hands, I said, how much did you learn about nutrition? Every doctor said zero. It's similar in the hormone world. Like OBGYNs who specialize in women's health, only get about 2% of their education on menopause, and most doctors get zero. So there's no menopause. You're about to see a menopause renaissance, I think, because we had a bad government study in 2002 or 3, Women's Health Initiative, that just really hurt a generation of women. They basically said, don't ever touch estrogen. And they couldn't have been more wrong. And now they're walking all that back and having to revisit. FDA had a big thing about it recently. So in essence, they call it practicing medicine for a reason, I think, because, it's always evolving. And we realize now there were so many things that we did that were just not right. But we were also, I'm kind of irritated because I was trained wrong. I learned how to be an expert in the body and how it works. I learned how to be an expert in the drug and what they do. But they left out the equation of nutrition, nutrients, vitamins, supplements, how to optimize your body, exercise, sunlight. If we just do some of that, I think we would be a lot healthier nation.
See, I feel like that relates really a lot to what we do, because it over the past 50 years, we focused a lot on treating your plants, like laying down your insecticide, pesticides, whatever you want to do, and treating that problem instead of trying to prevent that problem from the get-go.
Yeah. It's, a problem creates an opportunity for someone. And so don't address the problem, just fix it after it becomes a problem. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. So big ag and medicine, they're going down the same paths together and treating the masses. And so you 7 or 8 years ago, you said you started looking at it from a different perspective. So did I on this farm. We just took a deep look here at our soil and learned that it's a living thing, and we'd not been treating it totally like we should have been because we just didn't know any better. And there's no harm and foul in that.
Right.
We were just trained improperly.
Right.
So now we're trying to do back steps and fix that. So we're trying to go upstream and figure out how to undo it. And you see big headwinds in your business with that as well.
Yeah. I gave a migraine example earlier, but migraine medicines are $1,000 a piece now, and lots of people take them. And then there's lots of money to be made in between and all the processes that go on there from manufacturer, wholesaler, everything. And I started doing something from a nutritional standpoint or supplement standpoint that really made a huge impact on migraines. And it's pretty obvious in the research and the data. There's lots of research on magnesium and CoQ10 and other things helping migraines. I know good and well the people that make those medicines, those $1,000 medicines, know this, and it's like it doesn't come with the package insert to say, hey, also supplement magnesium and omega-3s. It might help your migraines. None of that is said in there. And so I just think it's part of the solution, but it's not the only tool in the toolbox. And they want us to keep medicine as the only tool in the toolbox. And that's what kind of has made me be rebellious about that. I'm like, no, it is a tool that is effective, but it's not the only tool.
And we were talking earlier about Mark Cuban's efforts in the big pharma, and there's some hope that he's making some changes in our side of the equation too, trying to get something going. But give us your opinion on how he's done so far in the pharmacy side of what he's tried to do for Americans.
I think wherever side of the political spectrum you stand on, because he's pretty outlandish in a lot of his comments, but he is dead correct. He is dead on as far as what is the problem in the pharmacy pricing space. And the good news is he's a lot more visible voice than someone like me. When I first started my PBM to try to educate employers, they thought I was crazy. And turns out I was exactly right, but they just didn't believe me. I was like, you're getting ripped off, and they just didn't believe me. He's now telling employers, you're getting ripped off. He's telling people your broker is not necessarily your friend. He's also getting a commission from the PBM, and the PBM is making about $30 a script that you don't even know about. And so it's he's exposing it and educating at the same time. And then he's also coming up with a solution. Now, his solution is the same as an independent pharmacy solution. Now, we can get those drugs as cheap as he does. Our contracts with these PBMs disallow us. Like we're prohibited from even telling the price sometimes. We used to be. But a cash price on these things are pretty cheap. But a lot of, I'll give a great example in the Medicare Part D space, which is killing most of our pharmacies, but it's also killing our budget nationally. Entresto's a really popular heart failure drug. It's $600 and something a pill. It is now generic, and it's about $70 a script versus $700 a script. None of the big Medicare plans cover the generic. They force the people to cover the $700, and they come in there even with a 25% copay. I'm getting my butt chewed out, and I lost money on it to start with.
I did some research about 15 years ago because, the CEOs of our big companies have taken a pretty good, lashing from people about their pay. But at the same time, the CEOs of your big health insurance companies make about 3 times what the CEO of another Fortune 500 company makes.
Sure.
And that's a part of the setup you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. And, they don't make money off a healthy healthy patients per se. In a way, they make you get insurance and you pay the claims, and then I'm a fairly healthy guy with fairly healthy family, and my insurance is almost just completely ridiculous.
Well, mine is more than a good house payment.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So. And then if I had a heart attack, they'd probably want my debit card before they, went to working on me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So it's
there's definitely better solutions out there, but they're not able to come to market. People like Mark Cuban are trying to expose the fact that there's better ways to do this
and just disrupt the whole system.
That's a great way of saying it. He's trying to disrupt the market.
Yeah, so I really hope he can disrupt ag. Now, as a farmer, we're farming more acres than we used to, and but I don't think we can go back and farm the way they did in 1940. But at the same time, we can make adjustments that could make big sways, and that's what he's trying to do. I hope he's working on it in the nutrient side as well. So.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of it is farmers now are paid on the quantity of crops they can produce. Like, yes, you can get docked for certain different things, but it's no longer focused on the quality. And that kind of sounds like what y'all are facing in the pharmaceutical industry also.
I'll give you a quick example. We get penalized if, and the doctor gets penalized now too, if a patient doesn't take their prescription every day. And the only way the insurance company knows that is how often do you get it filled.
I was about to say, how would they even know that?
So if you got samples, they don't know it. If you went to a hospital, they don't really know you got some from the hospital. And if you don't take it right on time, we get dinged. Like they pay us less or take money out of our check because this grandmother down the road didn't take it. Well, my mother, I've gotten her so healthy, she's off of her blood pressure medicine. And every day, somebody from that insurance company is calling her saying, you need to refill your medicine. You need to refill your medicine, because they also get money off of every time something's filled. They're just hounding her about it. And if your local pharmacy won't do it, our mail order needs to start sending it to you. And she goes, no, he actually has improved my blood pressure with lifestyle changes and magnesium and none of these other things. I don't have blood pressure problems anymore. And so instead of getting,
hear that.
I should get a check, a reward for that. And I'm getting penalized because she's not taking the pills.
That's crazy.
Which is a greater outcome for everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's like both industries quit optimizing efficiency. Like they just quit, and they just quit worrying about the overall health and well-being of everybody, and they just focused on a profit or focused on what way to keep people locked in long term.
Exactly. I mean, especially once you hit that Medicare age, you become the product. You're farmed out to every doctor from then on. You basically have to travel schedule around your doctor's appointments at that point.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not healthy.
Yeah. So, do you think the modern consumer understands the correlation between micros and macros and how that ties back to agriculture? Because, as we've fed plants over the years, we're worried about the pH of the soil, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the K. But today, I would tell you that equally as important is all the list of micros, the magnesium, it just goes on. Sulfur, all the small elements may make as much difference as the big three.
When you first asked me about doing this, that is the primary thought that came in my head. And, there's quite a bit of research on magnesium, but, we know it's farmed out of the soil 95 to 97% of what it was in 1950. So it hasn't been replaced. It's just no longer in those crops. And most kids and adults aren't eating pumpkin seeds and cashews. I mean, you don't see. So people aren't eating high magnesium foods. And then magnesium.
So Ritz crackers don't have.
They don't.
They don't have any magnesium. Okay.
Magnesium is responsible for over 300 different enzymatic reactions in the body. And a great example is sodium and potassium channels in and out of muscles is governed by a magnesium channel, and it's the key that opens it up. So you can drink all the Gatorade in the world, and you're still going to have leg cramps if you don't have magnesium. But it also affects heart rhythm, and we've had people that take Nexium and these stomach acid blockers. Well, we're kind of finding out that for forever that is blocked. The little amount of magnesium that's in the food, you're blocking it. So they're getting very little magnesium, and then lo and behold, a few years later, they've got a heart arrhythmia. Now they're taking Eliquis. and they've got leg cramps, and they're taking something for restless leg, and they can't sleep, and they have anxiety, and they're taking, and look, I sell all those prescriptions, but I'm saying I think the magnesium's having a major role in it, and the reason there is such a deficiency is primarily nobody's paid attention to the soil.
Right. So how many other pharmacists across the country are jumping down this wormhole like you are?
Well, I mean, after I spoke in Denver, there, quite a few inquiries, I guess, but there's some. I mean, but when people call me and ask me about it, I said, look, if you don't like this, if you're not interested in this, you're not gonna like it, because I've read you're gonna have to do a ton of work. Basically felt like I've gotten 2 more doctorates or something, learning all this stuff. And so, but if we don't do something, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's almost reached critical mass right now. I mean, we can't. The healthcare system, there's been a lot of people profit off of it, and it's not the people doing the work or doing the innovations, even sometimes. But the administrators and the companies and the middlemen have made a pile of money off of this problem. I'm glad to see this Make America Healthy Again thing. I mean, I think it's brought Steak and Shake doing beef tallow or whatever. I mean, just people talking about the fact that, hey, it's almost like the food was not allowed to be talked about, and the prescriptions were not allowed to have any criticism, or even can't look that way. And so I feel like maybe that the spotlight's moving towards that, even in the face of powerful obstacles.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, just like in our little town, they're going to take the fluoride out of the water because of some ingredient in it.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that movement?
Well, I've been reading about it. I don't I don't know where we fall on exactly what the right amount, if any, is, and I know that there's like hexavalent chromium in our water in Obion County, and I'm like, well, that's what was in the Aaron Brockovich movie.
Aaron Brockovich got, that's huge. And so they were telling me, I was just in our utility, and they were telling me, I was like, well, I don't like the drill at the dentist, but I don't want to drink that, so I don't know. It's
we're at least we're talking about it. It hasn't been looked at in 50 years. I mean, let's see what the data says.
Right. And make a better decision that's based not on profits, but on
correct.
Yeah. On doing better for humans.
That's right.
Yep.
So we've talked a lot about like big pharma and big ag in both industries. Coming into this episode, you said you really didn't come from a pharma background, that kind of thing. What do you know about big ag and just the agriculture industry?
Very little. I mean, I've got friends that are involved in the industry, and I've got both of my next door neighbors are farmers. But my grandfather was a farmer, but he was a farmer back, a lantern and a donkey. He did his crops, and he did the full farm. I mean, the pigs, the cows, the dairy, the everything. But I never got taught any of that stuff. So
I gotcha.
But as far as big ag goes, I've been in a big corporation before.
You understand how it is.
And then I've also, seen enough documentaries about, being able to persuade through information. If you go back to the Framingham study on, when Eisenhower had the heart attack, and all of a sudden they created a narrative that fat is bad, like don't eat fat, and nobody was ever allowed to look at sugar, and it's just that alone. It's not a recent problem. It's been in basically since commerce has gained these massive levels of power.
Yeah,
that's where you see manipulation, and then what I think a lot of the public doesn't understand is the media's power. And, when 75% of a news network's revenue comes from pharmaceutical advertisements, you think they're going to run a bad story about pharmaceuticals?
No.
I'd say behind pharmaceuticals you see is big food commercials. I don't know if they're going to be reluctant to talk really bad in the media.
Yeah.
And then there's pay to portray stories. I mean, now every time I see something on the news, I'm like, well, I wonder how much that company paid to have that,
or how true it actually is.
Have that story put out.
A farmer nowadays is push so many products, and so many of these products are focused on short-term yield. Like, what in this year, in this crop season, how can I make the most money possible? And they've gotten away from, like we've talked about, the soil health or just overall impacts of your long-term operation. And I feel like the pharmaceutical industry is very similar to that, but they're slapping it and just saying, we're feeding the world and y'all are saving lives. And like everybody just rolls with it.
You get a pass. Yeah.
And it's okay.
The word health and care together give you a pass to be able to say it's in your best interest. Yeah.
So our whole industry's problem is, it would be like me coming into your pharmacy, you presenting me a drug, and I tell you what I'm going to pay you for it. So we pay retail, sell it wholesale, and pay the freight both ways. That's our ultimate problem. But it's a very exciting.
He's being honest.
Yeah, I'm familiar with.
Yeah,
it's very pharmacy-like.
So it's very exciting though to think that we could work through soil health, plant health, that we could really make a huge dent in the global problem, the
Correct.
climate problem,
right,
and also the human life. Improve human life. So that is exciting. And as the talks just keep turning, it's a movement. So it's not. It doesn't matter. It's not going to go away, I don't believe.
Yeah, I think a healthy, productive society is probably the best thing that can happen, or an educated society too. Those three things are probably, when you look through the history of civilization, are what make civilizations flourish the most.
Right.
And instead of a few at the top, manipulating the masses to siphon profit.
Right.
That sounds very conspiratory, but it's kind of true.
Possibly.
We jumped down a bunch of rabbit holes. So what about the statement, food is medicine? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Or preventative medicine. Maybe that may be a better way to word it.
There's a couple things. I'll hear people say, you should get all this in your diet. I live in Union City, Tennessee. We don't have a Whole Foods fresh market on the corner. Also realizing that a lot of the nutrients have been farmed out of that process. And then there's the economic issue. Like, I don't know how much perishable food alone I can buy this week and how often I can get to the store to buy that.
Yeah.
So there's a difficulty in that. If in an ideal world, absolutely. In fact, I talk about when I'm doing a wellness consult with somebody, I'll ask, hey, do you eat mushrooms? If I'm looking to see if they need ergothioneine, I've got a supplement for that. But if you eat a lot of mushrooms, that's fine. You're probably good.
Yeah.
It's probably a little bit of both, but it's certainly not keep doing what you're doing and just get so sick that we'll eventually, make thousands of dollars off of you, And I don't know, in the ag world, it may be keep doing what you're doing, plant what we tell you to plant. I don't know how all that goes. So I'm very naive in that, but it's like you got to start listening to somebody else for a second to look at the long term. But the consumer ultimately will help drive that if they demand it, but they don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it does look like the European Union is setting a better pace for this than we are. They're healthier. It looks like have a better system. So,
right.
So it's not like we got to be the leaders. We just need to do some catching up and making adjustments.
Right. One of the things that people talk about going to Europe, they're like, oh, you can eat bread there. You can, you can drink the wine there. You don't get a hangover, And I'm like, I've never been to Europe, but, I hear that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, we should go.
I want to go. So from a public health lens, what in our region, what nutrient deficiencies, what are you seeing? And do you think that social factors are playing a role into that?
A little bit. That's a two-sided coin. There's certainly deficiencies. I mean, omega-3s is probably the biggest one. We're not eating salmon and anchovies, and there's only about 5 cold water fish that you can get really good omega-3s from. We're not eating that. Our kids definitely aren't eating that 7 times a week. Then there's the magnesium deficiency that we've already talked about. There's vitamin D3 deficiency. And there's CoQ10 deficiency. There's several things that are really critical to the body that we're, in statins, half the region's taking a statin, and it's completely blocks the production of CoQ10. So it's not just for muscles like you may have heard about. It's for brain health, Alzheimer's prevention and all sorts of things. The other side of that is the toxins and the environmental toxins and the stuff that we're finally getting around to, like, hey, how do I rid the body of these things? They talk about detoxes and stuff, and that sounds kooky, but truly, those are hormone disrupting things. And then we just start disrupting our hormones, not just our sex hormones, our body starts to fail us. And so that almost all of that can also be addressed. I mean, it's almost like what I'm talking about, pharmacy and healthcare and innovation in pharmacy world or prescription world needs to coincide. I mean, if we don't bring the food system along with us, or if the food system doesn't bring the health system along with it, it's not going to be near the synergy it could be.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's like the CIA not talking to the FBI.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's a good point.
yeah, so I mean, and we're working on that in this country, so
Yeah.
we should at least do this.
That's right.
Yeah. So you spoke about being the guinea pig. What on your journey here? You made a lot of dietary changes.
Oh, yeah. The first book I read was about 2017 that cooked my noodle, was something called The Obesity Code. And the reason was I saw a friend of mine that looked like a Greek god, and the last time I had seen him, he had not looked like that. And I was like, what in the world have you done? He goes, read this book. So I read it, and in essence, it basically talks a lot about fasting. It talks about primarily fasting or blood insulin, and we know that's what drives fat production. And so most of us are chronically insulin resistant, so our insulin just stays up. We're in fat making mode all the time. Well, fasting is one way to get it down. And so I kind of went crazy with it there for a little bit. I mean, I remember I did a 112-hour fast one time, but I didn't fast in the proper way. I learned a lot of lessons along the way. Now I incorporate the essence of fasting sometimes, several times a week, but I don't snack, and I don't try not to eat after supper and things like that. That got me started because I saw the results and how good I felt, and I was like, oh man, I'm not, my lower back doesn't hurt anymore, my inflammation's gone, and so then that led me into the magnesium deficiency, and then that led me into probiotics and the microbiome and how the gut-brain axis and really going after insulin and inflammation. And then I got into mitochondrial health. So, 10% of our body weight is mitochondria. Every cell has mitochondria. Unlike the biology diagram, there's far more than one mitochondria per cell. There's actually 8,000 in one heart cell. And so that's everywhere we've got to generate energy just to keep that thing efficient and kicking, and our tissues vibrant and all of our processes working and not shutting down and being prioritized by importance. There's just so many nutrients involved in that there's no way I could get that in my diet. So I started saying, you know what, I've got to be deficient in magnesium. And it made a massive difference in my life. I mean, if I go to a deserted island, I'm taking magnesium glycinate with me. That's the one. I'll leave everything else at home as far as medicine goes. It is a fabulous nutrient. But magnesium oxide, which is what I was trained on, is worthless. And that's what most people buy. They see magnesium on the shelf at the dollar store and they go, it's worthless. Throw it away. So there are things that people are wasting their money on. But there are some things that, like, you need to invest in this. It's like pay now or pay later, you know? And so it's a little bit that on the food, pay now or pay later, like invest in the good stuff. And I guess getting that data out in the ag world of what is the good stuff and what needs to be in the soil and what does the data show, instead of that data being suppressed and only showing this data over here that shows how much.
What's skewed,
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. So how do you go about educating your patients about the relationship between your diet, your nutrients, your medications? Like, how does all of that go hand in hand for you?
Usually it's brought on by the fact that of necessity. They're hungry to change. They're desperate. They're like, I'm tired of feeling bad. I want to get better. I got diagnosed with this. What do I do? And I take the approach of, if it were me, this is what I'd do. Like, I had somebody that has macular degeneration. It's, you're going to go blind, basically. And I was like, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd be on these 4 things, and I'd start eating this, and I'd quit doing that, and that's kind of our approach. Sometimes we'll see somebody that's just getting sicker and sicker, and their prescription insurance covers it. It's $5 or something, and And then I go out there to say, this is $12. No, I don't want it. And I'm like, I know, but why are you taking all this stuff? You're sick. You're getting chronically more ill by the day. And so we have 5 pharmacists, and I create my whole business model and the way we work to have pharmacists free, to be able to talk to somebody 20 minutes if we need to. We have these wellness consults, we have hormone consults, and we sit down with them, and it's really unique. It's not a place to get your pills. It's like, I want to get better. And that there are people on this side of chronic illness or this side of super expensive chronic treatment that want to do something about it on the front end. And I'm seeing more and more young people than ever do that. 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds getting interested in like, hey, man, what do I need to take? I don't want to go to the doctor.
Well,
that's where we land. We're the hub of that.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at your family tree, what's coming at you, in my case, it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Same here. I've got a massive, my dad's one of the most unhealthy people you've ever seen in your life.
So, yeah. So it is something that is on everyone's mind.
Yeah. Eventually it crosses your mind.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it comes from, you're talking about your patients coming in and saying, well, that's $12. I ain't buying that. We get told what to take by the doctor, and that's all we hear. Like, it's not a why. Like, I don't ask my doctor to explain. Like, I blindly trust you to give me the right thing, and you could be killing me, and I would know.
And that's where the pharmacist is supposed to do their job and come in and say, this is why he did this. This
like
is what
double
it's
check
for.
his work.
Let me call him and ask him why he did that. You know, we're that safety hub, so to speak, but also to help you get a better outcome by what we help you get.
Yeah, but it's actually, once you said that, and I just started thinking about, like, there's medicines I've taken, and I don't know, I can't pronounce them. And I'm like,
yeah,
no telling what I was actually putting in my body.
Yeah, we have people come in and say, I need that white pill. And I'm like,
there's a lot of white pills.
Yeah. Back to your point, there's a book by Peter Attia. I listen to a lot of his podcasts. He's a doctor. He charges $100,000 a patient per year if you want to go see him. But it's...
For one appointment?
No, well, per year. You
okay.
pay him $100,000, he'll be your doctor.
Okay.
But it's he has a book called Outlive that's really good. But what cooked my noodle in that one is that he started talking about, what do you want to do when you're 70? What do you want to do when you're 80? Do you want to be able to hold a grandkid? Do you want to be able to walk downstairs without holding the rail? Do you want to be active in your church, or do you just want to be on the prayer list? And I started thinking about, I started thinking farther than I just want to lose weight, because I looked in the mirror yesterday. It was like, you know what? I'm going to have grandkids one day, and I don't want to be them, coming to visit me because I can't get out of my chair. I want to go to them and be active and not on the doctor circuit.
That is real good medicine right there.
Yeah,
I like do you want to be in church or on the prayer list?
Yeah,
I like that
I kind of coined that one. But, I do see that when we're at church and we're praying for all these people, I'm like, man, I wonder if they had a time machine and they could go back 20 years, would they do anything different? Yeah. And I bet they would.
So let me ask you that. I'm 22 years old, female, work inside, outside, in school. Like, I'm busy nonstop. What would your advice be to someone my age? Like, what to do now so when you are 70 or 80 that you could still get out and about?
I think prioritize sleep, prioritize protein, start considering creatine, especially as you get into your upper 20s. Creatine's huge, important, great for your brain.
I took it when I worked out daily, but then when I quit working out daily, I didn't take it.
Still take it. It's great to preserve muscles, but it's great for your brain, and it's so safe. It's been studied more than any other nutrient. So, and then just avoiding toxic, ultra-processed, crappy food. That's the other thing. And then you've got the emotional well-being and relationships and all these other things that also kind of tie into that.
That's another podcast.
That's another podcast. Yeah. And then for women, one thing we've ignored is muscles. Like, preserve your muscles, do muscle work. It's really important as you get older. If you're over 60 years old and you break a hip, there's a 33% chance you will be dead in a year. That's the stats.
That's crazy.
You've got to preserve bone and muscle health. And then as your hormones fall off in perimenopause, it's very important to replace those, because that has a major impact on bones just to start.
So just annual blood work and check in with Kizer Pharmacy.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You need to be getting your vitamin D. Every time you go to the doctor, I tell people, like, get your vitamin D check your ApoB, some of these things that aren't on your normal blood work, just make sure you want to take a look at that.
Yeah. So, a quick question. You had mentioned creatine and different stuff like that. When you're buying supplements, obviously, if you're around Union City, buy from you.
Yeah.
But for other people, I mean, most of the time when I would buy anything, I go to Walmart, see creatine, see you're talking about magnesium or whatever it was, and just buying it. What ain't even the right one? How do you know what's safe to purchase for the consumer and what's not?
I wish I could get this out on a loudspeaker, but yeah, it's very important that you get your products sourced from the manufacturer, preferably the United States, GMP certified places. That's all the people I private label our stuff that make our own vitamins. I make sure of all of that. There was a study. One of our vendors actually ordered several of their own products off of Amazon. They had them tested, and more than half of them were not correct. Like one of them actually had Viagra in them in the product that they tested. So it looked identical. So there's a lot of things that get into the third party distributions. And then there's this famous berberine study, which berberine's super popular, but there's different ones. They did a berberine study, and I'm getting my numbers a little bit off, but they tested 32 different purchases from Amazon and Walmart.com. They took those products and had them all tested. 11 of them had what they said were in it. There were 9 that had something completely opposite in it, and then the remainder had what they said that were in it, but not near what the amounts. So you got to really trust what you're taking.
Yeah.
I do think when somebody says, "Oh, I heard I need to take fish oil," and they go, "Oh, there's $5 fish oil," don't take that fish oil. It's doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
45% of Caucasians don't methylate properly. They have a genetic defect that allows them to not activate folic acid in their diet. They don't activate, dopamine even. They don't methylate certain neurotransmitters that really affect your hormones, like how you get backed up hormones and thyroid messed up and all this kind of stuff. So somebody that can't methylate, that takes a plain B complex with cyanocobalamin, actually does more harm than good. It turns actually into cyanide if you take enough of it. Same thing with folic acid and some of these other. And then there's multivitamins that look good. They've got 1,000 things in them, but they're just minuscule amounts. I mean, you're just wasting your money. So
they just got just enough to get it listed.
Yeah, and it's really a waste of money. So I agree with some people saying that's a waste of money or that's too expensive, but you need to go to somewhere you trust and buying products that are trusted. Probiotics is probably the number one. Fish oil is probably number 2 as far as products that are notoriously not right.
And so you do probiotics?
Tons of probiotics. It's certain specific strains that do certain specific actions. There's one called Akkermansia that you only get when you're breastfed, and it gets wiped out from antibiotics and alcohol and all these other things that has a massive impact on chronic health. The research shows that bug in high abundance, you are far less likely to have obesity, fatty liver, arthrosclerosis, cancer, skin problems, mood disorders. I mean, it's and not to mention all the gut health problems. People that have a low abundance of that they're more likely to have all those things. So that bug, just that one bug, there's millions, there's 40 trillion microbes in our gut. And
40 trillion.
Yeah. I think it's like 10 times more cells of microbes in our gut than there are cells in our body. There's more microbes than there are human cells.
So it's just really hard to comprehend.
It
and it's
is.
invisible, and we've never been taught it. Most people don't think about it.
And doctors really aren't taught.
Not taught it at all. Most pharmacists aren't. And I'll have people from out of town, because we sell all over the country through our website, they'll say, "Well, I asked my pharmacist about this, and he said," and I was like, "That is completely wrong. Even he doesn't know." So not all pharmacists know either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're selling over the web.
Yeah. We have a website, KizerWellness.com and KizerPharmacy.com. But it's been good.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I'd like it to 100x if that'd be great. But it's been fun. It's probably breaking even.
It's more fun than selling Bayer aspirins or Viagra.
Yeah, especially when you get the review back that said, "Hey, this changed my life." That kind of stuff.
That would make you feel good.
Yeah, for sure.
So what were your websites, your social medias, all your little handles?
That's a good question. KizerPharmacy.com.
Hold on, before you get into that, how long I saw you on TikTok, and how long you been doing that?
A couple years maybe, and I look back some of my songs I wrote, and I listen. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And so, yeah, there's a lot of bad ones out there, but some of them get in the flywheel or whatever, and people get interested, or somebody starts commenting. But my primary goal is to just educate. I'm like, did you know, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I do think, and when I see somebody I care about come in the pharmacy, I don't make any bones about, you need to take this. I don't care what it costs, you need to take this, and I know it's going to help you. And so, and then there's all sorts of things on social media you can't say, you can't make claims about a food product.
Get flagged.
Yeah, so you got to be a little bit careful about what you can say on there too.
Yeah. So back to your handles and all.
Do you know your handles off the top of your head?
Not really, but at Kizer_pharmacy, I think on it. Kizer is pretty unique, I guess, so you could probably find it. But Kizer Pharmacy on Instagram, Kizer Pharmacy on Facebook, Kizer Pharmacy on TikTok.
Can you believe your whole, as you got out of school and then wanted to own your own business, that now you're doing what I would call is high school stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's difficult for somebody my age to do this stuff, but
I feel dumb doing it.
Yeah, I'm like, my fat fingers trying to edit something and everything. I'm not, I have a little issue with that. But I'm spending my day now doing stuff I enjoy versus fighting an insurance company over a claim or something. We have people on staff doing that. I'm just not doing it as much, so I'm enjoying doing this part.
Yeah, and you're able to hit the masses with this. I mean, your voice can get much further than you could in the Union City newspaper.
Right. And if more people are doing it, which is like this podcast, I mean, if we can just, it's harder to unlearn than it is to learn. And I think we have to unlearn a lot. Like, remember everything was about calories. It's not about calories, it's about what affects your hormones when you eat certain things and all.
Well, in ag, we've got to learn a lot of things that we weren't wrong for doing them. We were just doing what we thought was best.
Yeah,
and we're coming to find out that it probably wasn't the best.
Well, probiotics in the soil. I didn't know y'all were doing anything like that, but it was like it has to have. If these bugs have such an impact on my health, then they have to have an impact on the health of the plant.
Yes.
Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, so you talked about we're working with humic acid, fulvic acid, sugar. There's a lot of things in the plants that we're just learning that is right under our feet, but we just didn't know a lot about it. So it's really the same topic. It's just humans and
different industries.
Yeah. So it's really amazing.
It is.
That's I'm going to learn a lot more. That's for sure.
All right. Yeah. Well, that was all the questions I had for you. Caleb, you got anything else for him?
I just appreciate you coming. Maybe we can do some more stuff in the future. It's very interesting.
It is.
And, it's like you said, the answer might not be 90 prescription pills. It might be something different. And I know I'm sure at a point in my life I need to make some major adjustments. And Callie is too. She's 22 over here, and she's.
Boy, if I could go back to 22, I'd do a whole lot of things different.
So it just makes you open up your eyes, and there's some of it makes you worry, but at the same time, it's you got to try something if you want a different result.
That's right.
So
I like it.
All right. Well, thank y'all both for joining me today, and thank you for making the trip over here.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.